17 NLP techniques to change beliefs extremely fast, either in yourself or whenever you work with somebody else, when you want to help somebody change. Some of those will be more based on language, on reframing, on how you present ideas and how you ask specific questions that will make them reflect on their thoughts. And some others will be about visualization, about anchoring, all of what we can find in the realm of NLP techniques. One first thing that I think is really important to point out is you may find 3 different types of beliefs in yourself or in people. You have beliefs about your capacities, about yourself, eventually identity, and before that just a skill set, but basically beliefs about you. I can do this, I can't do that. I am capable of that, but I am not competent enough in this. I am a person who... Okay, it's about you. Then you have beliefs about a tool, a method, a principle, or like a political movement. I believe in this political setup, I believe in this philosophical background, I believe in this. Just a belief about something else, about a method, a tool, a principle, something around. Or like hypnosis does work, hypnosis doesn't work. That's a pretty classic one. And then you have beliefs about others around you, about the world around you. So for example, yeah, I know I can make an effort, I know I can change, but people around me, oh, they can't change, they are just too stuck-minded. People around you, it is just a generalization because you don't know everyone else, but we might have beliefs like that about what is happening around. The faster you can define in which category the belief falls into, the thing that is limiting you or that is limiting the person you deal with, the faster you can identify which category their belief falls into, and the easier you can help them deal with it. Technique number 1, it is about visualizing a role model, and once the person is slightly down in trance, at least relaxed, eyes closed, and you guide their mind to identify who is a person who does not have the problem they have, then you can help them clarify through auditory thinking what is one thing that person believes that allows them to not have the problem you suffer from. So if your problem is you are an alcoholic, for example, just picture somebody who never had any problem with alcohol, or even better, somebody who did and who recovered, and who even after 15 years or 20 years never, swapped back again into alcoholism. Such a person, what is one thing they believe, either about themselves, about alcohol in general, or about the world? What is one thing they believe that if you were believing that, you would be exactly where they are? Maybe not in the next day, but over a longer period of time, you would just get there. Visualizing a model like that and allowing your brain to figure out what is one thing in the back of their head that they really believe about themselves or about what they do, that would allow me to get at the same level if I was believing the same thing. What is that thing? And the point of deconstructing that by first visualizing, noticing how the person looks like, how do they speak, deconstructing, shaping a whole representation of that mentally, and then only asking what is one thing they believe, it is helping the brain, slowing down all the mess in some people's brain, some people's mind, and helping them to micro detail, micro chunk to only one specific thought, one specific thing, one specific belief, therefore, that the person has that you could have too. Next, number 2, we have the Scrooge pattern that was popularized by Tony Robbins, I think. Maybe he did not invent it, but I know it was pretty known after he used it on stage repeatedly. It is about making the client, or yourself eventually, making the client visualize 2 different things, so like in 2 sessions, in 2 rows, so you just get the person to close their eyes one time, then you make them come back up, and then you go for the second round. The first round basically is, of the Scrooge pattern, is to make them visualize the worst possible scenario, the worst possible future if they don't change. If nothing changes, if they never act upon the thing they wish they could act upon, if they never start working on the project that they wish they could work on, if nothing changes, how miserable their life is going to look like 15, 20 years from now, even maybe just 1 year from now, but just giving them a really bad, difficult representation of what's going to happen if they don't change. And then on the exact opposite, so you build some momentum, you make them visualize what's going to happen if they do change. After they have been putting into use all the tools and tricks and things they have been learning, once they have started to take action and once they have received the result that they were expecting, then what will their life look like? Who else will they be around? What else will be happening? You help them clarify that, and you ask them questions to help them fortify their mind on the process. And now they're going to have two representations. One of them they're going to want to get away from, and one of them they're going to want to be closer to. So you might very easily just use one belief they have uncovered. I don't believe myself capable of doing this. Okay, that is one belief. What is the exact counter opposite belief? And then you make them visualize, okay, what's going to happen if you hold the negative belief for the next 10 years, for example? And on the opposite, what's going to happen if you actually start believing into the positive thing for the next 10 years? And visualizing both, and then letting them elaborate on how eager they are of taking action, because now they know how different it's going to be. Number 3 is called encore collapsing. So the basic way of using anchoring is to touch somewhere on the arm, for example, or on the fingers. Just let's stay on the arm as a simple example. You are going to anchor, for example, one thing the client does not want to believe into anymore. Like, they know they are scared, they know they think they are low self-esteem, whereas they are not. But whatever it is that they have finally realized was a limit in their mind, but that they have trouble to actually get past because the negative pattern just keeps hammering back their mind non-stop when they don't actively do something. And in that case, you might just encore, okay, what does it feel like, and you touch at the same time while you speak, what does it feel like to notice how shitty you feel because of that limit, because of that blockage you haven't been able to get rid of. And you touch them at the same time to encore at this spot the exact feeling, sensation of being exhausted, exacerbated about whatever they want to get rid of. Then on the opposite, you encore on the other arm or on the leg or whatever, you encore what is going to happen, what is it going to look like once you get rid of this. Once you have finally found your way out of this and you have started to believe into the one positive thing you want to believe about yourself or about your skills or anything. And you encore that by touching here, so you make an association in their neurology between the touch, the stimulation, and what the feeling they get when you describe what is going to happen once you have successfully changed that for good. And then the idea of encore collapsing is that you touch both at the same time. It is just an excuse because you guide through language. So without the language or without the person doing it in their mind, nothing much will happen. But when you guide them through your language and you tell them, now I am going to touch both emplacements at the same time, and when I will touch, so you prepare their mind, when I will touch, I want you to realize which one is the most important, and I want your unconscious mind, for example, let your unconscious mind make all the new calculations, all the new changes, the new tweaks, so that you only remain with the positive of both, or like you respect what the limit has been providing for you in the past, and now you let the new resource emerge and take the lead onto the other one. So when you touch both, sometimes people will have like a shaking in the chest, or like they will have they will mumble, or like they will be confused, they will feel like tired. Something will happen because you are helping their neurology to rewire and to get into a new phase of life sometimes eventually. Number 4, this one is purely linguistic. It is coming from the meta model. It is called what stops you from, what prevents you from. And I love using that one whenever I discuss with somebody who is kind of closed-minded on a topic, or like somebody who thinks they can't achieve this or that, just asking them what stops you from doing it? What stops you from believing it is possible? What prevents you from acknowledging there is at least one thing you don't know about what I'm talking about? Or hypnosis is dangerous and evil. What prevents you from accepting you have eventually not read every possible book on hypnosis I have read? What prevents you from acknowledging the possibility that maybe there is something I know after 10 years of experience that you don't know since you have never practiced anything that had led to hypnosis? And then usually when I ask things like that, people come up with, oh yeah, but I know one hypnotist, he's a douchebag and blah blah blah. Okay, so you just generalize out of one person. That's what I'm talking about. You just don't know what you're talking about. But you may use that in a more therapeutic and gentle way whenever the person thinks they can't achieve this or that because they're not competent enough, or because they don't have the right grades or whatever. Just what stops you from believing there is another way? What stops you from thinking about another alternative? Oh, I thought about everything. Sure, name me. Name me all the things you have tried that did not work. In the end, you're going to end up with maybe 3 things at most. Not 1,000, for sure not. So what stops you from doing this? What stops you from accomplishing this? What prevents you from stopping this bad behavior? I can't. What stops you from being able to? Number 5, kind of going hand in hand with the number 4, it is if everything was possible. This is a great mind reframing in some personal development books sometimes, or some, I think some spiritual gurus that were talking about this one. If everything was possible, basically if there was no limit to what you can accomplish, if you had been given the keys to open the potential of the maximum potential of any human being on earth, if you had been given those keys, what is the first main thing you would definitely want to use them for? If everything was possible in your life, what is the first thing you would like to change right away? And you may micro-chunk that to something that is actually manageable. Maybe not, oh, I want to change the world. Yeah, okay. Let's start with what's happening in your own life. What is one thing in your own life you would definitely be craving to change right now that at least one person has done? So it's not like an imaginary scenario, at least one person has done it, and you would definitely like to have that at your disposal right now. What is it? So whenever the person mentions something they don't believe themselves capable of, okay, if everything was possible, what would you believe about yourself? If everything was allowed, permitted, accepted, then what would you choose to believe about yourself that so far has been difficult to believe? What is that one thing that if you were believing into that, everything would become so easy in your life? What is that one thing? Number 6, anchoring a resource. So we have seen anchor collapsing with both at the same time. This one is just about one simple resource. Basically, when the person, again, does not believe they can accomplish this or that, or think they are doomed to fail because they are just of the wrong personality type, they are ENTG or whatever they are using as an excuse to not accomplish something in their life, you can just go back in their past, asking them, in your past, have you been able to accomplish something you are proud of today? What is that one thing you have accomplished in the past that you're pretty, like, yeah, definitely I have done that. What is that one thing? And you guide their mind to noticing what they saw back then, what they heard back then, what did they feel like back then, and you touch on their shoulder, for example, you anchor the resource, or the arm again, whatever, you just anchor that resource as you describe and you ask them questions about what did they feel back then. You just touch here repeatedly until you have been anchoring that feeling. And you tell them, whenever I will touch here again, you will have access again to that wealth of positive connotations about yourself, those positive feelings about yourself. Next, you are going to tell them, okay, now I want you to think about that one thing you don't think you can achieve, or that one thing you think you're not talented enough or not competent enough, or that you have tried in the past and you have failed, or that thing you think you don't understand enough, that one thing that you think is way too complex, you will never get that, never understand that. Think about that. And you are going to touch at the moment they think about it. And you notice what is the next version of reality that is emerging in their mind as you touch that resource at the moment they think about the thing they thought would never be accomplished. in their life because they're not competent, not good enough, whatever. Number 7, who made that decision? I love that one. It is coming from the meta model again, the initial meta model developed by Bandler and Grinder back in the day. So who made that decision is about helping people to realize that whatever happened around them, it was only their interpretation of the events that caused their pain, suffering, limitation, whatever it was. It was only their interpretation of the events that caused that, and not directly such or such person. So when they mention a limitation, something they know is impossible, completely impossible. Okay, so they have made a decision that it was impossible. You can challenge them, question them, who made that decision? For the sake of my understanding, could you describe for me, please, who made that decision? And if they say, well, just me, okay, fine, then how did you decide that? How did you decide you were a little piece of shit? Because if you say you're a piece of shit, then who made the decision that you were? Yourself. So compared to what? What do you compare yourself to evaluate yourself as something bad? And why do you do so? Why do you compare yourself to this or that or this? And if it was, oh, because somebody else told me, okay, then how do you know that person was right? Because my school teacher when I was 8 years old told me, how do you know they are right? Are they right here in front of you right today? I guess no. So how do you know they are right in that case? Whenever people have a judgment about themselves, a negative judgment about themselves, help them clarify where did that come from, and sometimes just the unveiling will be enough to make the belief fade away. Not every time, but sometimes it will be enough, just because people will realize that they just trapped themselves into their bag of negative assumptions about their potential. Once you poke that, once you really hit that main thing they used to justify why they fail, why they're not good enough, some old limitations may fade away just at the moment you talk about it. Number 8, spatial anchoring. More specifically, spatial anchoring used in conjunction with the model of Robert Dilts, the 7 steps, the 7 logical levels of thinking. So this one is going to be about walking on the ground. You are going to make the person step on the ground, first step, second step, etc. And you're just going to make them walk on the ground like this 7 times. Therefore, at every step you are going to ask them how this new belief they want to have in their life is going to integrate with everything else. So if you don't know the logical levels from Dilts, it was about environment, then behaviors, then skills and capacities, then values and beliefs, and then identity. So you can just take any sort of assumption, anything the person wants to believe about themselves. So if you have made them visualize a role model before that point, and you have uncovered, or like you help them uncover that the one thing they should believe about themselves is this one. Okay, once you have been able to help them put words on what they need to believe into, then you can just make them step on the ground, one step at a time, and starting from the environment case, asking them, okay, how your environment is going to change as you believe in that thing more deeply, more thoroughly, and you connect that belief to a new environment. Maybe the thing they're going to say is, oh, I would change this in my bedroom, or I would change this in my living room eventually, or oh, I would talk more with that person because this friend I kind of lost touch with always used to make me laugh. And whatever they mention, just help them connecting the dots with how can their life change in agreement with that new belief. Then you go on behaviors. Okay, so which new behaviors are you going to put more in place because of that new belief, etc. until values and until identity. So in the end, who are you? And every time they cross a new step, you may repeat back. Okay, so in your environment, you have been changing your living room, and then in your behaviors, you have been changing that discussion with your friend, and then. And with all of that, who do you become? at the end, so you pace and lead all the things they said were going to change in their life, if they indeed put into place that new belief in their mind. And then, okay, therefore, who do you become because of all those new changes? Number 9, age regression. This one is if you have noticed that in your client's talk, in their discussion, if they keep referring back to some old, very painful experience that shaped who they are today, or that shaped the way they believe about themselves today, whatever happened to them that keeps them stuck today, you can just pull their mind back into the past. So you make them close their eyes, almost under some hypnotic procedure, and you make them go back to the main negative experience, but from a distance. You make them dissociate and notice specifically from a distance what is it that they see. And next, if you have been anchoring some positive resource, you may just fire the resource, the encore, whenever they are looking at that old thing they used to, criticize themselves about because they have failed, because something bad happened. You can just fire the positive resource and notice how this is changing their neurology, how it is changing their perception of what happened. Maybe when the last time I did that, the person started being much more kind with themselves, noticing that, well, they were not she was not responsible specifically for everything that happened at this moment, and she was not responsible for everybody's feelings, and she only should be responsible for what she feels right now. So from there, she had a new realization, and some weight had been able to drop, because she had been using a positive resource while looking at the past, at something bad that happened in the past. So age regression is a great way to help people dissociate from maybe the negative emotional charge that they carry about something they have done wrong, or something that should have happened this way. And once you let go of that, help them let go of that, it may be even just that enough to make them change a whole range of beliefs by themselves. Because once you have changed the perception they have of a negative referent experience, then they may reevaluate during their dreams after the session. They may reevaluate so many other things that they have accepted to be true from that day in their life that actually are not true at all. But they may even do all of that during the next days after the session is over, maybe not even during the moment where you put the encore and all of that. Maybe after all of that has happened, they will have new breakthroughs about their life. Number 10, what is the difference between you and someone who does not have this problem? That is one I love to use, and I use this one very often in sessions myself. Whenever the person mentions the limitations, or something they haven't been able to solve so far, or something that they think is doomed to never change, I may just say, like, for example, just compare to me, because I may not know all the people in your entourage, but I know myself, and I know I do not have this problem, for example. So if you say, this is stuck, this is the end, nothing can change, then what is the difference between you and me? Because I don't see, right now, when I look at you, I don't see a difference between you and me. We are both human beings, we both have a brain. I don't see a difference. So what is it specifically that I have, that you don't have, or vice versa, that makes you believe in this, whereas I don't? Or vice versa, that makes me believe I can do this and you can't? What is the main reason you would attribute to that change? And maybe not me, but maybe just somebody else. Just one person who doesn't have your problem. That one person who does not have your problem. What is the main difference between you and them? Oh, they're just more confident. Really? Because confidence can always be like malleable. You may have situations in life where you're super confident, and situations where you're just extremely scared because you don't know that environment yet. So the confidence is not enough. In my ears, it is not enough of a reason to explain to me why you can't do this or that. So the main difference, but let's say confidence, okay. How do you know they are confident? If you say the only difference is because they have more confidence, how do you know that? Just because of the way they behave? But behaviors are things you can just learn. But so what is the main thing you attribute to your lack of progress, your lack of results, and how can we change that? Number 11, again, once you have identified the negative belief, if this belief or if this problem situation was already solved, what would you say by looking back on who you were or who you have been? So this one is playing with time distortion, and I kind of use that one a lot too during sessions. So let's go, what I say is let's go in the future, basically up to a moment where you have completely dealt with all of those problems. You have dealt with that, it is done, you are a new person from that day. And it may be 2 weeks from now, it may be 2 years from now, it may be 20 years from now, I don't know. Just from that day where you have been able to solve all of your issues. Can you look back on today and notice, what do you say about the person you have been today? What do you say about that person? And some new thoughts will pop up. Sometimes the person will say, well, I was just carrying too much pain on my back for no reason, or like I was just worrying for no reason. Then great, okay, so how can we lower the level of worries you have in your head right now? Now that we know the direction. And quite often the only thing the mind needs to move on is a clear direction. So asking questions like that, coming from a place in the future where you have changed, and looking back on today to the person you were, what do you say? That one thing they say is going to give a powerful, clear, distinct direction for where they need to go in their life right now. Number 12, the bag of rocks. This one is more like for deep hypnotic state, like you don't need to get someone super deep, but I would say it is better when the person is really deep in trance, because it is kind of a metaphoric placement of the mind. The bag of rocks is whenever the person is carrying something really heavy. If in their language you can hear they mention they feel heavy, they have trouble letting go of this because it is so difficult to carry all of those bad memories. You know, when they use that language, one thing you can do is putting their mind down in a trance and guiding them through visualizing that they are moving somewhere in a nice background, a nice landscape, and you are going to make them visualize that they carry a very heavy bag of rocks. And at some point you say, now you can start to drop one rock out of the bag, and now a second rock, and now a third rock. At some point you just make them unveil the whole bag, leave it on the ground and move, and feel how lighter you feel because of having let go of that bag of rock. A bag of rocks in the unconscious mind is very often associated with pain, with unconscious pain, with problems you haven't been able to deal with. When you help the person imagining that they drop a bag of rocks, especially if you have been talking about just before that problems, issues, pains, sufferings they have in their life, it will definitely help them to create a new image of themselves without all of that, or at least having dealt with it. The point of going more metaphoric is to help them dissociate from the controlling conscious mind, the controlling ego that wants to figure out everything from A plus B equals C. That one quite often is just putting rocks on the path, sometimes because you're adding too many details in your mind. When something is changing in the back of the unconscious mind, many things will tweak and change faster once back in the awake state than if you try to argue with it consciously. Number 13, staying on this idea of unconscious metaphors, symbology of a belief. So once you have identified something the person would like to believe into, or something the person would like to get rid of as a belief, but more specifically when they want to get something more positive in themselves. So once you have identified something the person would like to believe into, or would like to believe themselves capable of doing, you are going to make them associate in their mind that belief with a shape. It might be a square, a circle, a triangle, whatever shape, square or form it is, just a shape, and you are going to give help them give a color and maybe a sound eventually. Just forming a symbol, an object that is a symbol. Again, it is coming back metaphoric, so you reduce the level of conscious resistance with, yes, it is possible, no, it is not possible because blah, blah, blah. All of that is just conscious resistance. You can just use a symbol to let all of that evaporate, and you are going to help them shape from an unconscious level, what does this new belief look like in their life? From there, you can make them imagine this symbol gets inside them, and you may even touch their chest at the moment you say, once they have their eyes closed, inside you, or maybe use their hands and hold their hands like this and say, now you can see the symbol inside you, and then you put their hands into their chest. So you are helping them associate with what does it feel like to have this inside you. And if you have been guiding their mind to relax a little bit just before you use all that process, it may make their mind reshape perceptions of how they could alter those behaviors, those things in their life, because we go metaphoric. With a symbol, we go metaphoric, so we reduce the level of conscious analysis for why it is not possible, why it cannot be that simple. All of that is just banished away, because you use something metaphoric which has no rules. Number 14 is, which part of you is responsible for believing this? So once you have unveiled the limiting belief, you may help them dissociate from eventually the negative emotional charge linked with believing that, by saying which part of you is responsible for believing into this. Because there has been many parts inside yourself so far. There is your creative part, there is your funny part, there is your confident part, there is your authoritative part if you're a parent, for example. You have many parts inside yourself. Which part of you is responsible for holding that belief and for still holding it today? And from there you may go eventually into part reframing. So okay, what is a new thing that part of you may believe into that would be way more positive than the things you used to believe into? Or leading, for example, into age regression again. So how did this part of you learn to actually believe into this? And how could that part of you receive a new resource? We can use again an encore, using a positive encore and giving to that part of them a new resource to start believing into something new that was not possible so far. In any case, we can just play with that representation. Once the person has enumerated a name that was describing their limitation, you help their mind dissociate from it, and you can play with that more easily than if it was just stuck on the first entry level of discussion. Number 15, future pacing. So it is a pretty common NLP technique. It is about making the person visualize their future once the positive thing that they wanted to change has actually changed. And I like to link that with an ecology check. So what else will be impacted? What else in your life will you be inclined or able to change because of that initial first positive change? Once they have uncovered something they really wish they could believe more into, you can lead them into the future and noticing what do they see around them, what is happening around them, what do they say, how do their voices sound like once they are into that new phase of life where they actually believe in this. And you may even pull them into different stages, so 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, and what is the new shift that is happening every time. It will help their mind build a more stimulating and motivating representation of what is it going to look like once they have actually changed. Number 16, how do you know when you believe into something? So I love that because it is kind of a confusing statement. Asking somebody, how do you know when you believe in something? It will just unveil that many things they hold as true are actually beliefs. But until you have made them uncover that they have an actual strategy for making themselves assertive about this is real, this is not true, or like I am sure of that, I am unsure of that, once you have made them uncover there is a code, a secret code in their mind with some modalities or anything else, there is a code in their mind that everyone is using unconsciously to define what they want to believe into. Maybe they did not even decide, but the way their environment, the way their life experiences have been happening, shaping, have made them believe into that one thing. And once you help them unveil that actually there was a strategy by which you started to believe in this, it may help them accept that many things they hold as true and static, and it is like that, and it cannot change. Well, actually it can change. So when you ask them, how do you know when you believe into something, you can just use their strategy. So if they say, well, I just look at that and I know it is true. Okay, so what if you could just look at this thing you don't think you can do and believe it is true too? What if it was possible? Because you say you just have to look at something and know it is true. So what prevents you from looking at this goal you want to accomplish and know it is going to be done? Then what stops you from doing that? If it is that simple, if a belief in your head is just, oh, I know it is true, then what stops you from just knowing it is true that you will accomplish this goal or that goal? Or that you will recover finally from your breakup or whatever? What stops you from just knowing it is true? If it comes down to only this. And when you ask that, obviously it will come down to another limiting belief. Oh, this one I can't because. And on the because, you're going to have a limitation, and from the limitation, we go back through all the things in this video, you can just change the belief. But this question will help them uncover a deeper belief that they may not have been able to uncover if you hadn't been playing with their mind a little bit. And finally, number 17, how did you learn that you were capable of speaking English? English or German or Japanese or any native language you speak. How did you learn you were capable of speaking that language? The person will just say, well, I just speak it, it is my home tongue. Yes, sure, so what prevents you from being so assertive about something you want to learn? Because learning a language is extremely difficult. And even if it is easier apparently for kids, yes, but it is still very difficult. So when you can make people accept that they have already learned something that was extremely tough to learn, then it is easier to lead their mind toward, well, there is a new thing that is equally difficult to learn, but that you can also learn. Because this question will appeal into people's heads to automatic behaviors. Oh, it is so simple because now it is automatic. Yes, and what if you could turn automatic something else that you want to develop right now? Any skill set at some point will become automatic too once you have practiced enough with it. But starting from the presupposition, it is something that's going to be automated as easily as the language you speak right now as your native language. It is going to help people fortify the possibility, the representation in their mind that they can learn new things, and they can learn new things fast and very easily. It is a simple mind trick I like to use sometimes to bend people's minds into unconventional directions. Anyway, that is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed, at least I really liked doing that one, and I will see you again very soon. If you want to have some more details about how language works or about how NLP can alter your mind and perception, you have documents in the description on the first links that you can use to better shape your understanding of the field and better know what to use at which moment depending on the people you work with, and how to change yourself if you want to act upon your own behaviors, beliefs, and overall success in life.